Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree from Software's DLC expansion for game, what was it, 5th Coming of Christ, Elden Ring? Can't remember what we got up to on that particular one. Wasn't far off though, was it?
Getting there, innit?
Yeah. Anyway, an expansion featuring an all new story. The story of this one, interesting. Set in the realm of Shadow, imbued with mystery, perilous dungeons, new enemies and items. The realm of Shadow is a place obscured by the Erdtree, where the goddess Marika first set foot. A land purged in unsung battle, set ablaze by Messmer's flame. It was the land that Miquella departed, is that her name? Divested himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden, and now Miquella awaits the return of his promised lord. Requires Elden Ring base game to play, which I think goes without saying, but they have to put it in the description somewhere, otherwise someone will start kicking off, won't they? A deep and engaging new story, travel to an uncharted world, expanded abilities and items. It's even got on this page how to access Shadow of the Erdtree, which is a little bit of a blow. This is it. This was in development for... When did Elden Ring come out? 2022?
Yeah, early 2022,
So
March, sure.
This is 2 years in the making.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that's a long time. Obviously, Elden Ring was a huge success critically and commercially. Those that may have just joined for the first time, though, might not understand your history of these From Software games. So tell us about that, because you've got a pretty storied history. Skipped a couple, but mostly gone through nearly all of them.
Yeah, it's all late and it's a bit all over the place, but I've kind of worked my way backwards now. I think I've played...
Did it start with Bloodborne?
It started with Bloodborne from, I think, your recommendation, and struggled through that. Bloodborne, then Dark Souls 3, 1 on Switch, which was bizarre. Demon Souls remake, and Elden Ring. So missing Dark Souls 2 and Sekiro.
Yeah. A lot of people say Dark Souls 2 is the worst because...
It's not the same producer, is it, or director?
Yeah, he weren't involved in it. Let another team do it. And Sekiro is, well, probably more akin to what the Shadow of the Erdtree is in terms of difficulty, and that you can't just over-level yourself, and we'll get into all that. It does require you to play the game in a certain way, but any interest in that game still to this day, or you just frightened off by it?
No, I probably will play it at some point. It does scare me a bit because you've actually got to get good rather than over-level and crack on. But no, I will play it. I'll probably play Dark Souls 2 at some point, especially if they've done some kind of remaster for that. It would be quite nice. Yeah, I'll probably get around to them just at the right time.
So this is a expansion, $32.99 I've got here on the store. I assume there was no getting around that because it's digital only.
Yeah.
Maybe some PlayStation Stars points if you got those, that I get them. Sort of a little 5% cash back basically every purchase. So get to add a $5 every few months to my wallet. In terms of activating it, 'cause this is a controversial thing that From Software always do. Like there's a certain point in the main game where you have to have done a couple of prerequisite things. It's the same with Bloodborne. I remember I didn't play the old Hunters because I'd finished the game and I was like, well, that's annoying. I don't want to go back and like redo the game, so I never bothered. So, as I understand it, it's similar here. Is that you can have gone past it, particularly if you finished it. You may have to restart or do a new game plus or anything like that. What did you do to tackle this?
Yeah, I kind of thought ahead for once in my life. When I played the base game, I got to the end, and then I think you had to go back to that round table. Do you remember, like the hub sort of base? And I think you kind of do something there, and that would start your new game plus. And
Yeah.
not knowing I've never played DLC for these games, but I know it can always be a little bit of a challenge or obscure how to access. I thought, do you know what? I'll leave it where it is here. I won't do anything, and I'll wait and see. And that paid dividends because it meant I only had to do one sort of thing to access the DLC. Potentially, had I beat the boss I hadn't beat, I would have been ready to access it immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'd started New Game Plus, you'd have to play, I mean,
Decent way in.
Yeah, probably like 30-40% of the game, realistically.
Because even getting to like Redan, if you try and go too early, it's like a war zone. You can't. It's really hard to get in.
Yeah.
There's certain things I think you can do that make you be able to walk into that castle, a bit easier. But if you just try and bum rush there, it's like it's chaos. And I don't know how New Game Plus affects the difficulty either. Everything's ramped up a little bit, although you are of power at that point. But I don't know if it balances out that way. But what was it? Moog, Lord of Blood, also needed doing. That's the one I didn't fight. I mean, obviously I'd done Redan because he was part of the main quest, but Moog just...
I was the same, yeah. So but then that's your first intro then. And I was like, right, I've got to beat this pretty, hard boss.
2 years off, 2 years of rust settled in.
Oh, exactly.
Take a little while to get through him.
I mean, it's probably not that long. That mimic tier is still powerful, and obviously I was a higher level, but I mean, it was a bumble job, really.
Yeah.
But got it done.
It's interesting on the page, on the store page, it actually has like a tab for each of the bosses and sort of tells you the location, and then gives you like little tips as well, like battle tips, how to get past them to make it a little bit easier. So, why do that though? I mean, why?
I mean, the game just like lives on its obscurity. Yeah, some execs put that in. There's no way anyone from the game development team have gone, yeah, let's tell them how to do this with little tips.
But why are they even making it this hard to get in the DLC?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't know, mate.
Or do you like it?
Because I mean, it's irrelevant, isn't it? I mean, I guess if you come in fresh, if you hadn't played the base game, it would be quite nice because you'd get to a certain point and then it's a big area, so you'd be opening up a massive new area which you could dip in and out of, although the leveling up, which I'm sure we'll get to, doesn't really, whatever you do in the shadow world doesn't flow over to the base game, so I don't, and obviously it is harder, so when to do it would be a tough choice, I guess, if you was coming into it fresh.
Yeah, I think there's easier ways to do it, but people will find a way, and the fact they've put stuff in there to tell you how to do it, I guess, is a small consolation. In terms of the base game Elden Ring, I was going to ask your thoughts on it, but I will just say that you gave it a platinum.
Yeah.
Does that still ring true 2 years later, or you sort of look back and think, I probably over-egged that a little bit?
No, I mean, I'm a big fan of these games, aren't I? And it is, for me, is it the best? Probably, just because there's so much there. I mean, I've put in just shy of 200 hours now. That's rare for me. I'm like, that is bang for your buck, and I wouldn't say enjoyed it all, but yeah, I would I go back and play it again? Probably not. But I enjoyed my time with it, and yeah, it's worthy of the platinum in my book.
Other Adcock platinums include Resident Evil 2 remake, Last of Us Part 2. Nothing in 20. That I think I've balls that up. I'm sure anyway. Nothing in 2020 or 2021, and then we got our Last of Us Part 1.
I remember that.
Yeah, good game's a good game. I don't think anything this year you've got on the board, so it'd be interesting to see whether it can live up to that. At a high level, what do we get of this DLC? Because it's been 2 years in the making. 32 quid's the price of some sort of medium tier game, so expectations are quite high. I think if you went in, it was just sort of like one arena boss, sort of rush mode, you'd be like, that ain't worth it. But I'm assuming they've gone all out here and given something quite compelling, or at least a lot of content for people.
Yeah, you get a massive new area to explore. Probably, say maybe as big as the first two areas combined. I mean, my memory's a bit hazy on
Yeah.
when I look at the map and what I unlocked, which was the majority, it's big. I don't know how many bosses. I think I probably beat 11. I think
There's probably more to be found.
Oh, mate, there's probably I guess 40 maybe.
Right.
But how many are mandatory? Maybe as low as 4.
I think I read that you can get, if you lucky or unlucky, you could get to the final boss quite quickly, but you'd be nowhere near powerful enough to deal with him unless you were some sort of savant. And even then, I'm not even sure the game would give you enough margin to even skillfully do it. I'm sure someone out there has, but realistically, you've got no chance.
So you're getting a lot. You're going to get a whole host of new weapons and weapon types. Loads of new armor sets, all the stuff people who like this love. It's quite a deep game. Getting back into it from the scratch was difficult because you've got all those ashes of war, the incantations or whatever they're called. You've got, all your weapons, side weapons, like your pots you can throw at people and. Yeah, all sorts. So
I've heard you can you can put like gloves on or something and just start like punching.
Wail on people. Yeah, I never found those things, but I read the same. Yeah,
there's a lot. That's one thing I wanted to ask actually, because what my experience of Elden Ring, I eventually found a build or a whatever I was going for and carried on with that. I didn't use any of those tier things to reset it because I found that they were finite, and I was like, well. What if I ever need 4 of those and I've only got 3 suddenly because I spurged one on something useless? In this particular DLC, did you partake in the new weapons, the armors and bits and pieces, or did you just stick with what you had because you were comfortable with that? Because the great thing about Elden Ring is the variety in the weapons and actually using... They're all very different. You think, a sword's a sword. And it's like, well, it's not sometimes. It has all different tricks and abilities that other swords don't do. And as you can put incantations and weapon arts and things to customise them further. But that does mean that there's always a bit of a risk in changing weapons because you get so used to, the move set of whatever your standard kind of weapon outlay has been. Did you experiment or did you eventually sort of go, I just need to stick to the basics here?
Yeah, so I pretty much stuck with what I knew from the base game. Found a weapon there that I liked, got me all the way through, so I pretty much stuck with that. What I did find, though, for the bosses in this is that some of them are unnecessarily hard. And for those ones, you don't need to necessarily go to that woman to, completely respec.
No.
But you do need to give yourself like a new build. You might need like a tank build with a shield.
Right.
And like a spear, for instance. That was me one time. So I did then change. I've probably done that twice and then obviously kept my main character the rest of the time. But do you know what? It's probably one of my frustrations with the game because then what I found was I really like the, I would never get through these games without support. So I'd look online, figure out what I needed, head to that area. And that was like fun. I knew where I was going roughly and I'd be like, I'm looking for this weapon. And it was good. But the problem is when I got the weapon, it's like level 1. So then you've got to go back to that hold or go farm somewhere to get a load of runes. Go to that thing and then you're just running between that bloody smith guy. And then there's like a old hag that sells you all like the stones you need.
Have you still got to go to the round table to do all this?
Yeah.
There's not like an Erdtree specific sort of
unless
area.
unless I miss something, which is it's me. I could have done that. There's probably a way to do this all much quicker. But I did find it frustrating. I was literally having to, one evening was just getting this weapon up. Yeah, and I was like, this is poor. Like this point of the game. Like I feel like you should be able to just cash in the runes and say, right, just bypass this step and just upgrade this weapon to the level. Clearly, I can get it.
I had the similar thing in the main game in that I was like, once you start committing to specking like a specific weapon with those resources, I don't know if they are finite, but the higher level sort of runes or whatever they are very rare. And when you get to a certain stage, you can only use those to move it up. And I was like, I don't want to start again from scratch with anything now.
Yeah,
you sort of... Yeah, there should be a way of like being able to like you to cash it in, maybe not get everything back, but something so that your new weapon at least gets a bit of a start.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a hangover from the main game, isn't it? Still, just rearing its head.
Like, I feel like it could be just quality of life improvement there missed from my, unless it is in there. I didn't look. And even like the farm, you know, when you just like, there's a bit where I just needed like a shield grease, like something that would just buff my shield. Like I was again stuck on somebody, and I need these 3 ingredients. So like for an evening, I literally just found their locations and just kept going from like my site of grace, running 3 steps, getting this plant, starting again, doing it. And I'm like, surely just again at this level, there should be a merchant that just sells everything I need and I can buy unlimited, because what's the difference? Why do I need to sit here farming for 25 minutes? Silly.
So what does that? You didn't need to do it in the main game as much, I would assume. You sort of just explored naturally. Is it just because the game's so much harder, or Erdtree so much harder, that it's a necessity to get this buff on your shield to even stand a chance against?
Yeah, because I didn't exactly. I think because I didn't really need to do that from what I remember in the main game. I don't think. So yeah, and it's weird. It's like all these games where they kind of put a roadblock. Like the last boss isn't necessarily the hardest boss. You know, you'll get someone who's an absolute nightmare, and the next one then it's kind of a cakewalk in comparison.
Over, yeah.
So, but that's always been their way. But what I found in this one, like I said to you when we last spoke here, there's a couple of them that are they're just a ball ache for no reason, and they weren't fun. They were just shit bosses, seemed a bit cheap, and I was like, what is this? But
well, I think we need to expose this, because there's a conversation had offline after we done Thank Goodness You're Here, and you were on the ropes with it. He was like, this might have to go in the botchling bin. And I had to sort of step in and be like, look, calm down. I know you're upset. There's sort of in tears, almost floods of it. And I was like, oh dear. I said, look, calm down. Go and do something else in the meantime, but just keep your sort of your arm a bit loose in there. Jump in now and again. Don't have a big goal or whatever. Just keep yourself, but keep at it. I think that pep talk sort of saved you, because you know a couple of weeks on, you're now here smiling ear to ear at finishing Erdtree. But it was getting the better of you, the whole situation.
It really was, yeah. I took a few more days off from that conversation. I don't think I told you I'd done the classic Tom, so I got home one Friday. It must have been 2 or 3 Fridays ago. Got home and thought, fuck it, I'm just going to get myself a PlayStation subscription. I'm going to just summon someone's come and help me. So done it, paid the $6.99, went online, put my little summoning sign down, no one. It's like, okay, it's annoying. Go and do something else. Same again, no one. I was so confused. It was only like, I eventually just beat the guy I was stuck on anyway on my own. Just finally got through it. Got chatting to this girl at my work. Turns out she's a proper nerd. Put 700 hours into Elden Ring. Like finished it all.
Yeah.
And I said to her like, "Oh, there's like no one playing it that online anymore." And she was like, "Have you put a password on your multiplayer?" And I thought about it, and I was like, "Yeah, the last time I played multiplayer was either with you.
It was, yeah. You can,
or my other mates." Yes. And I was like, "Yeah, there's a password on it." So I unlocked that, and then all of a sudden there was hundreds of people, and I was like, "That makes more sense." I was like, "Fucking moron."
So is that the first time you summoned then in these games before? Other than like when you've been, I know you came into my game a few times, and I think what, your nephew or someone that you sort of
I was playing with some friends for a while. Yeah, I've never. So I got through the base game without summoning altogether, and then
the mimics are summoning it, so probably better than most people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very true. So on this one, I used the summon on the very last boss to get me through. Other than that, I've done it all myself.
Yeah, and
I could have I could have searched for every upgrade seed. I could have, buffed every bit of armor and every, I know I can do it, but I was just like, look, got my little subscription. I've got enough resource to call these people in. Let's just get this done. Come on, let's see this through.
So once that person came in, was it first time, or did you ever go through a few like sort of fodder people that weren't up to snuff, and then eventually got someone good?
It took me about 5 goes, and then I had a nice riff. I actually blew it once. I was like, "Fuck!"
What you did?
And then I found the same guy again, and I was like, "Come on, we got this." And it's, I wouldn't say easy, but it's a lot easier with a second person there.
How did you find that? Because I actually enjoy doing that in the games generally. Like I've always summoned like at least a few times in the game. It's kind of fun just having some random come in there. They're normally all kitted out. There's
Oh,
like
mate,
this, there's like this little like culture where they bow and say hello, and then they do it, and they just disappear once the boss goes, and it's like that was just like this. We were 2 ships passing the night. We connected. We got the job done, and then both sort of leave with little happy faces.
Yeah, no, it's good, isn't it? And I feel like the bosses, they're so fucking hard that it don't feel like cheating. It actually, I think you said that Radan fight in the base game where you end up with all your NPC mates. There's like 7 of you. That's like, I feel like most people, everyone I speak to, that's their favourite boss. So
Yeah.
I just feel like, it's fun. It's just because in this one you can summon more than one person as well, which I didn't realise till after. So I'm like, I don't know how many, if it's 2 or 3, but it's kind of more actively encouraging it, I feel.
I do wish for a game where it's seamless. Like, we could just start, and you can do it on PC as a seamless multiplayer mod. So you can both just start Elden Ring and then just go through the whole game, rather than it being summon here and they disappear after a boss. And there's certain areas where I think you can't summon people in, and like I wish there was like a co-op mode of these games. Make it harder if you want. I think they actually do ramp the health up a little bit. For the bosses and whatnot. Probably not to outbalance having a second person. Just having someone else aggroing the boss can give you so much breathing room that you never had before. But I do yearn for like Elden Ring 2, and it's just like from the get-go, it's like you can just play a co-op campaign together. That'd just be so cool, I think.
Yeah, because I feel like they've always been, because they've always had these the way it is, haven't they? But there's always the extra bits where you can see how people die. You can leave those little tips, for the secret walls, and there's a trap and stuff. So like they do lean into the multiplayer side. So maybe that would be where they go next.
That's what I'd like to see. Well, let's talk about this leveling system and the difficulty. I even saw the other day they've patched the final boss to make it easier again. So it's like the second or third patch they've done. It was after you'd finished it, and I was like, that'll annoy him slightly. They've like hours later put a new patch in, but there was a lot of noise and chatter about just the difficulty of the game. And I think what made that more of an issue was perhaps the new leveling system, because usually in these games we're used to just collecting your runes or your souls or your blood echoes, leveling up your items, your attributes how you want. You can grind. There is a soft cap where it starts to be diminishing returns. You still get a little buff, but you don't get quite as much as you did before. But for all intents and purposes, you can kind of make the game easier for yourself if you're willing to do that. This has like a finite number of like upgradable, I don't know, what are they, leaves or something?
Like seeds or something.
Seeds, that's it.
Yeah.
Within the game, and that's your main way of powering up basically. There's only, I don't know if there's 20 of them. Maybe there's more, but there's only so many levels of that you can do before they run out. So at some point there's a crossover between you having to get as good as you need to be to finish the game itself. From the outside looking in, that seems like an interesting prospect to go with, because it's a little bit different. But I can also just see being in the game being a little bit peeved by that to a certain extent, having to hunt around finding these seeds that arbitrarily just sort of level you up just because you found them or perhaps killed something.
Yeah, I think maybe that because they are like, they're sometimes in a chest, sometimes they'll be at a site of grace, sometimes you'll kill a certain enemy. You figure out which ones will have them is the thing. It's not like literally a random drop on arch number 7 in a castle. So you can figure out there's 50 total over the world. So it's not like, again, like people have put together maps with everyone on. So always in the same place. I probably did prefer it. It was a nice change. It got me out exploring more, which is because I think what I figured out on base game Elden Ring is a couple of good farming locations.
Yeah, those giants realistically, I'd just go and take down like 5 of them. It was like 8k of whatever, and I was like, yeah, thank you.
And then once I got to any areas I didn't fancy my chances, I'd kind of just run the gauntlet and get to the boss and then worry about them, which is, you're missing out. The enemy design in this is really good. Like, obviously the areas to explore are really good. So that's not the best way of playing these games. So this definitely got me searching high and low, especially early when I feel like you get to a point with these games, or I don't know if it's everyone, but I kind of then just want to mainline it. I'm like, I sort of feel like I've seen enough at this point.
Yeah.
And that's then frustrating because that's when I was like banging my head against the brick wall. I was like, I had one boss that I knew was hiding like 5 upgrades behind him. I didn't realise till afterwards they are literally, you kill him, there's a tree with 5 upgrades. I assumed there was a whole area and I'd have to look around, but no, he's literally guarding 5. And then I was on the last boss and it got to a point where I was like, I don't really want to look around the world. I don't know how many. I think I got to level. So there's 50 pieces, but for the first 4 upgrades, you need 1.
Yeah.
Then you need 2. Then you need 3. So maybe you upgrade like by 20 levels, perhaps. I can't. And I think I was like level 13 by the time I beat the game.
Okay.
Yeah, and by that point, I'd kind of seen enough, and I just thought, maybe I unlocked the last boss, got to his area a bit too soon, and then once I'd seen him, I was like, okay, I just want him done. Whereas if I hadn't done that, I might have then been happy to have a bit more searching.
Yeah. So in terms of the old school way of leveling up with the runes, like, can you still do that? Like, do you still kill like fodder enemy and get those points? Is it just they don't do anything to a certain extent?
Yeah, so like I don't know the percentages and stuff, but yeah, say like when you kill a boss and they drop 200,000, that's still enough, even with like, because obviously it increases, doesn't it? Every level the cap goes up for the next level. So when you're level 160 or whatever I came in at, you need like 200,000 to upgrade once. So yeah, you can still do it. It's just it must be that soft cap plus, and the returns are very small. But like I said, I never really look at the numbers anyway. I just chuck it into whatever I want to chuck it into, whether it's want or need. And then these ones, I don't know, maybe it's like a 5% overall increase on everything when you get an upgrade in the Shadow realm. So
and is that visibly, like, can you see it on your stats when you like apply like a new seed? And does it have like almost 2 numbers, like the Shadow numbers?
No, again, I didn't pay attention. I just know from reading, I didn't really pay attention to what the difference was. It'd be interesting to someone. Millions of people must have done it and know all the intricacies there, but I didn't. I just know that it was. Someone said it was about 5 or 6%, like all over buff when you do that.
You don't choose what to put it in. It's just a full scale. Everything goes up by whatever
exactly that. Yeah.
The game. And then say if you level up traditionally, so you get your 200,000 runes and you put like another 1 in strength or whatever. When you leave the Shadow realm or whatever it's called, do you retain that level still? All your seed stuff goes, obviously, because it's not relevant. But if you like went up 10 levels during the game and you were 180 rather than 170, do you retain that sort of power when you come out, and that's still like useful when you're out in the main game?
Yeah, but I reckon probably, because I would only have done that for the bosses I beat, so I probably only leveled up 10 times, across the whole 30 hours or whatever I put into this.
Yeah. So would you in hindsight prefer the traditional leveling to have been here for this, or did the difficulty need tweaking a little bit?
It did seem weird. I don't know. Probably it was just a couple of those bosses were just unfair and badly designed. Like I think I said to you last time, they had some of the best bosses I've fought, and definitely some of the worst. Because I've been stuck on bosses on these games for weeks, as you know.
Yeah.
But I've always quite enjoyed them. But these were just a pain in the ass, to be honest. I guess maybe a combination of both would be nice, where you level up, because I think you need that, and that's what these games have always had. But it'd be good if they had like 10 seeds hidden in the main game or behind certain quest lines that would give you a.
Oh, don't put it on a quest line. They're impossible to track. Like, you'll kill an NPC and then you'll end like 5 seeds worth of quests that you can't get. Please, not that.
I should hate this, mate. There's choices to be made and all sorts can really blow those quest lines and people who help you later. And
in the main game, I just gave up. I was like, I'll just do what I think I can, because I've got to make fucking handwritten notes here, because that's the way the game's designed. There's no conversation log, and they were talking in riddles as well, so you didn't get much out of them.
People are moaning on this one, mate, that apparently it's too clear. Like, the story's just too in your face.
Nonsense. What is this? Was there a story that you could follow, or was it much like the main game? You sort of like, well, I roughly know Elden Lord. Okay, done.
Yeah,
or was it
basically.
A bit more in your face here?
Well, do you know what? People were moaning that it is too obvious this time. I mean, there's definitely more conversation. And I knew early on that Messmer was knocking around causing issues because his mum left him. I was like, okay, I actually know who this guy is, and I know why my NPC's kicking off when we're fighting him. So it was a little bit more story. And I always think it's there if you want it with these, all that rich lore with every weapon and everything you find. But who's putting them together realistically? Who's got that time? But yeah.
There's a few people. In terms of the environments, you say it's pretty big, maybe Limgrave plus another environment put together. Do we have good, like, I guess, diversity in how they look, how they're structured? I know there's, like, dungeons as well sitting around in this. So talk to me about that side of the game, because that's normally some of the best, well, it was the best parts of Elden Ring in many facets.
Yeah, I mean, it does look. It's more Elden Ring, basically. You know, lots of empty, grimy, grotty,
fantasy type.
Yeah, locations, horrible-looking enemies, massive bosses. But yeah, there's like 2 or 3 massive legacy dungeons that are really good.
Really showing Zelda how it's done these days.
It is that old Zelda, really, isn't it? I think that's it. But yeah, there's especially one. I actually don't know what it's called. It's the one in the north, but it is so like interconnected in a way that I've not. I'd beat all the bosses I thought were in there, and I think I still found then another 2 in a whole other area. Oh, it's insane. It's huge. Absolutely mad. You end up in like the loft in these like rafters and all sorts. Some really good level design as always. And then you've got all the normal bits out in the main world, you know, the little catacombs, caves, you name it. They've all got more generic bosses where you might get a nice piece of armor or a sword. So I'd say if you like it, it's more of the good stuff, and if you don't, there's nothing here that's going to make you like it.
No, that is interesting. Any other business for anything you've not spoken about that you've particularly liked or disliked? Like little unique, any weapons you really liked?
It is really more of the same, you know. You got, and like I wish get 700 hours Charlie in here, because she's probably upgrade hundreds of weapons, whereas I kind of just play it safe and stick with what works and don't rock the boat. But no, I think pretty much covered everything.
Well, formalities. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. It can go in the gallery, or it can go in the self-storage outside. It could have ended up in the bin had I not talked you down.
Get it in that gallery. Oh yeah, shit, what's in? Yeah, that could have happened. Could it? Could have been. No, but open the gallery.
It's in the gallery, and as usual, we've got the gold. Well, we've got the platinum, gold, silver, and the bronze to rate it. Will it sit alongside its main game counterpart and get itself the platinum?
I'm gonna drop it down 1 level. I'm gonna give it a gold due to an excellent game. But there were a little bit of frustrations and and maybe
more so than the other games you've played. Is like the most down on a From Software you think you've been? I mean, it's not down. It's not negative, but but it's a definite change of tone from a lot of the other games.
Those bosses were poor, and when I Googled just to see is it just me, there was a load of people bitching about
got
basically
the
same
vindication you needed.
Yeah, exactly. And probably Google any boss in that game and you'd probably get it anyway. But I did feel vindicated because it's not just me and these are bullshit. And there was that. And then, just some of the frustrations with the leveling up. And I was like, maybe it was just me. The game is not designed to be played that way, and you should be exploring and picking up everything. And you don't then need to get 50 rabbit foots and whatever I needed. But it did feel a bit like, why are they making me do this? I just want to get this item. And from what I understand, there's no quicker way to do it than what I'm doing. I've had to go and find a cookbook, and now I need to get hundreds of the same 3 ingredients. And I was like, it just feels this late in the game, there should be a shortcut.
Yeah, it's like busy work. Because the leveling's primarily focused around those seeds, like, and once you've picked them up, you've picked them up. You don't drop them. Obviously, with the runes, you die, you lose your runes, and you go back to get them. But because that's not as important in the DLC, was there a sort of was the tone slightly different? Because you're carrying around like a few 100,000 runes. If you die, you're in trouble. In this, you could still lose those, but it's probably less impactful because the leveling up's so soft anyway that I can take or leave those. I need to just make sure I get to these seeds.
Yeah, exactly. That was the non-concern really, because like I said, the only time I ever got like a big wad was when I beat a boss, and then I'm right next to a site of grace.
Yeah,
instant upgrade.
Cash
So yeah,
them in.
I don't think it ever really, not once. I always find that's like more in the early game. As soon as I found, like, I remember I found a couple of really good farming locations, and I never really worried about that much anymore, because I would just then, let's see, I'm talking bollocks, because there was definitely times there where I'd spend hours just farming for runes happily, just like
you start pushing
work.
the boat out, don't you? You start getting confident. You're like, I'll just do a little bit more. I'll just do this catacomb, and then then you can get yourself in a right old pickle. Yeah. They're not easy to get out of once you've committed to those. But yeah, I was wondering, because the seeds completely sort of remove that as a threat, because it sucks if you lose all those runes, but they probably weren't going to make or break your next extra power stage anyway. It wasn't like you were saving them up for anything. If you cashed them in, great, but ultimately you needed those seeds.
That's it.
Interesting. Well, that's Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree getting itself a gold, and it's out there being nerfed on a weekly basis, it seems, as they try and balance the game for people. I mean, those journalists that got through that, like, that was when it was like rock hard, no internet help. Like, so I reckon I wonder if some of those even bothered getting through it. They just sort of got 80% through and went, yeah, this is great, I'll give it the whatever, hide my trophies.
Or do they have like a translator in a hotline to
straight directly to
From Software? Yeah, because I don't know how they're doing that.
Power Hotline, but sort of From Software's own version of that.
Yeah, there's not probably anything as like obscure in this one, as in like you need this medallion to activate that weird lift, and you've got to find these 2 pieces in. Could be anywhere. It's a lot more.
I found though, it does tell you, to be fair, it does say like location, like west and east, and I was like, okay, I think that's there, and they were there, to be fair. But one more question: is it easy to have like not a site of grace, like the little golden path to follow? So that's back again. So if you want to just not that you can, because you need the seeds really to get your power up, but that's again your sort of thread to follow if you want to get on the main path.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's good. Well, look, that's Shadow of the Erdtree done. Earns itself a gold. I did want to ask about this because it was a hot topic, so sort of catch him cold. PS5 Pro, $699.99, 700 UK pounds. No disk drive, that's 99 quid. No stand, that's 25 quid. 825 all in. I'm assuming, well, I put a poll out on the Dimp group. 0% so they're getting this before the end of the year. So that's not happening for Sony there. I did get a PS4 Pro back in the day, but not at launch. I got it like January or February afterwards. And Very were doing one of those things where if you use their pay free, you get 20% off the item.
Okay.
And I did that, and me and Adkins both did it actually. And that's when I started getting the HDR TV and all that good stuff. But I mean, this is like 3DO levels of sort of pricing. I don't know if you remember that back in like mid-90s, which was absurd back then. But I assume there's no interest of this. I mean, would there have ever been, even if it was at a reasonable price?
It would have to launch with some sort of bit of software that they could show me. Here it is running, new software, kind of almost made. We've squeezed it onto the PS5. It runs like shit.
Elden Ring, that'll run smoothly at 60 now.
You say that. Then maybe not a 700 quid with no. I tell you what, as well, no disk drive is key for me. because I like having that option. I mean, I'm going more digital when needed, but
Well, you
I
were saying
still
about
just
your
love.
Samsung Center. You're going to be streaming Luna and Game Passing. Nothing, no hardware even in sight.
That's very true.
Just beam
That was
straight
bought,
in through that
that was
fibre.
that was bought for other reasons. Yeah, no, 700 quid, no disk drive, and nothing else. I mean, I know it'll make everything run. You know, I guess like an Alan Wake would be another one that would get a nice bump from this.
Yeah.
But no.
No. So the PS4 Pro that released at 350 UK pounds, which is the same price as the launch PS4.
Okay.
So it sort of replaced. We'd already paid 350, and it was like, if you want another one, it's 350 again. That felt more. This is obviously well and above what the launch of the PS5 was. And the Xbox One X was 450 UK pounds. That's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
They've started doing this, Sony, where they release the PS5 Slim now, and by standard it doesn't come with a disc drive. You have to buy the disc separately and attach it on. As you just mentioned there, that's sort of key for your gaming habits. Are you a little bit concerned they're just sort of trying to slowly like nudge out the disc, sort of, oh yeah, you've got to buy it extra now. So it doesn't come just bundled in with it. You've got to buy it extra. We assume that the PS6 will have a similar, set up in place.
I think it's inevitable, isn't it? Like, if they can get everyone onto their own ecosystem and take out that middleman, then it's an absolute no-brainer. So I feel like, however long the holdouts can hold out for, they'll probably do what you say. Maybe the next one will be that, as in PS6 console, base console, no disc drive. Yeah, you can buy the disc drive that looks hideous and have that sitting there for 100 quid.
I don't know, it costs 100 quid. That is such a massive markup. That's like, there should be 50 quid tops.
Yeah.
100
so,
quid.
No. What about you? Are you going to... You love a bit of tech, don't you?
I do, yeah. The reveal itself was awful. I don't know how you could sit there and say, oh, yeah, I'll definitely buy that. They didn't really show or say anything, and I think that's somewhat intentional because it's a difficult message to kind of straddle. It's like, that PS5 that you've all bought or plan to buy, shit now. Like, it's now about this PS5. So they have to sort of straddle a careful line where it's like not completely just slagging off the PS5, but also you want them to sort of show what the PS5 Pro can do. I mean, based on that, anyone sitting there pre-ordering it, I think is crazy town. But what I will say is I think when we get closer to launch, and they have to really just get people with Digital Foundry, give them hands-on with it, let them say, look, here's some of the games we'd recommend, here's what they can, so they can run through and just do the whole full analysis. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be live and die by those sort of third parties and analysing the games rather than what Sony market it, because it's a difficult marketing job. But that is a lot of money. I don't think it's necessarily unreasonable, just because I think that's just what it costs. they're not selling this at a loss, clearly. They probably are making a little bit. But I don't know any product. I bought a chocolate bar the other day. That wasn't made at, £1 or whatever it was, about 10p. So that's how capitalism works. I think the technology is just the cost of it. This is a luxury product made for sort of super enthusiasts. I think 10% of the total PS4s were PS4 Pros when it was all said and done. So it's like 1 in 10 people getting it. So it's not like a mainstream. It's not there to replace it. It's there as an option for people. I do think the outcrying has been a bit over the top. Gaming should be for everyone. I'm like, well, it never has been. Never.
Very true.
Unless you've got your phone, you play Fortnite on that for free, maybe, but not what we're playing in now. And also I was looking at other tech around at this time, like 1 terabyte OLED Steam Deck. That's 570 quid for a handheld.
Yeah.
So they're only 130 off, a PS5 Pro. There's an Xbox Series X launching in October, 2 terabyte disk drive, $600. So it's only $100 off what this is. I think The more concerning thing is whatever comes after this as like a proper next gen. The price of being 500 or under, I think it's breached and gone now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all going to be well and above that unless someone's willing to take a massive risk and sell them at a loss and hope that software makes it up. But there's certain games I've not played specifically because I think it could do with the treatment of a product. Dragon's Dogma 2, even on PC, that's not optimized up to a great standard and still chugs a bit. If they can show me a game like that is fixed to a certain extent on PS5 Pro, I'll be like, that's good. That's one of them.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter Wilds isn't out yet, but that's another one. I remember getting Monster Hunter World, and that transformed the PS4 Pro. Transformed that, gave it 60 FPS. The image quality wasn't great, but it transformed that from a frame rate perspective because they were always choppy and stuttery games. It kind of fixed that. So a replay of Alan Wake 2, that's on the list as well. Like I want to go through the New Game Plus and get the platinum. Okay, so there's definitely like a good 5-6 games that I would look at utilising for this. But I need to know what it's doing and what it's not doing. There's some exciting stuff in there, like the upscaler. They've got the PSSR or whatever they've called it, PISA or however they've kind of defined it down. That is exciting technology because in the PC space you've got DLSSR, which basically tells the computer to run it at a lower resolution, and then the AI upscales and reconstructs the image to 4K or 1440p. It doesn't look perfect, but from a TV console view especially, you won't notice. You'll think that looks 4K, and it gives the machine more headroom.
Yeah.
So that actually is exciting stuff. And I don't think... can you get a PC at the price of £700 for what it's doing? No, not in real life. Like you could probably scrimp and save off eBay and nick a few bits, and you get close to it. But the equivalent GPU is about £500 on its own. Then you've got 2 terabytes of SSD to get, motherboard case, CPU, power unit, RAM. That's all. A grand null. The PC I've got sitting here, which I got in 2020. £2,000 as good as that cost. So this whole I'll just jump to PC. I'm like, will you fuck? You're gonna go from £700 to £1,400? Oh yeah, but they haven't got a disk drive. Well, guess what? The PC hasn't either. They don't do physical anymore. It's the most digital platform you can get. So yeah, I'm undecided. I would like to see more. I think we will see more if they're smart. And it's good. They'll get it out early to, those guys that can test it, like Digital Foundry or IGN have got their own sort of team that does that sort of stuff now, and that will be where it's sold. I think really.
I think if you do wait a little bit, I mean, how long do you wait? If you want it, I guess you want the biggest life cycle with it. So it's that's your kind of.
That's a good point. As soon as it comes out, it's on a time limit already because if we assume like 2020, I think the PS4 Pro, there's 4 years between that and the PS5, so you leave it a year, you've lost a year.
Yeah. And
what you're banking, I suppose, by leaving it a year is that it bombs and they're forced to cut the price. Like maybe a PlayStation VR 2. We saw those recently.
Exactly. Massive. Did you hear the sales went through the roof for a couple of weeks? It was discounted. So it's funny, isn't it? You just get that price point. There's people sniffing, but they're not willing to pay the sort of top dollar amount, I think. Yeah. But
it's a risk either way. It's definitely... And I also look at what I'm playing. Like when this comes out, which I think is November... I'm very likely to be playing Metaphor Rephantasmo, which I'll start at some point in October when it comes out. Judging how long those games are, I could be on that till December.
Yeah.
And I don't need a pro to play that for sure. It's not going to get any benefit, really. So it wouldn't be probably to the new year that I'd even be sitting down going, okay, Dragon's Dogma's 2 fix, maybe I'll get that. Or maybe I'll go back to Alan Wake 2 at this point and do the DLC as well. So... It's a bit of time, and by that point, I'll be able to gauge the popularity of it. If I see it's not shifting, waiting might be a better option because they might have to just be forced to cut it. But I think they're going to have limited quantities. They're going to sell what they need to sell, and it probably will hold its price until the bitter end, I suspect.
Yeah.
But who knows? It could just be completely and utterly, people turn their nose up it. But I think next gen, everyone's going to be gearing up for £600 consoles anyway. So my advice now is to get saving for those if you're interested. But the days of these things being sold at a loss, I think, are gone.
Yeah.
And also, Switch 2. That's, 6 months away, you'd think? Sometime between... We're going to find out, hopefully, by the end of this year what it is and the price. Early next year. Maybe people will be holding off waiting for that. To at least see what it is. Because if that's exciting as well, then that's like, okay, do you really want to drop 700 on this and another 400 on a Switch? Probably not.
Yeah.
You choose one or the other, wouldn't you? And if Nintendo get their way, that could be a £500 if they get it right in terms of tech.
Yeah.
Then they're setting the standard there. But interesting. I'm interested to see more of it, but they're just not shown enough, so has to be sort of written off at this stage and put a pin in it.
Wait, we got a release date yet?
They've got 7th of November here.
Okay.
Pre-orders open later this month, so
There
to
you go.
be fair, the disc drive sold out once this was announced, so there's people getting that. Well, I think there's people getting them thinking that the demand for this will be high, sell them on eBay for $150 and sort of cash in on that, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to fly. It'll be a few desperate people that go, oh, I'll get one now for $150, but they'll sort that out, you'd think. But PS5 Pro is at least official.
Colin Moriarty would be happy. He's been banging on about it for 6 months.
Yeah. Because a lot of people said it didn't exist. So, well, it did. I don't think anyone expected. I don't think anyone guessed £700 UK pounds, though.
No.
I think we all put 550 tops.
Yeah.
But then if we looked, I think, to be honest, if I'd looked at that Xbox Series X sitting there at $600, I actually would have thought, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
That's sort of stealth there already is like the lowest cost. And it was a bit more than that without the disc drive. But
It's that thing. Do you know what? Even if I was sniffing, it's the fact that I'd want a disc drive and it's another £100 on top would almost certainly just put me off.
What's really annoying actually is like for us, like early PlayStation 5 adopters, it was digital or disc.
Uh-huh.
And I chose digital, then swapped to disc, cashed in, did what I needed to do. We can't even detach the disc drive on this model and keep it for the Pro. Whereas those that have bought the slim version now, you can buy it with the attachable disc. It comes separately.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you were going to upgrade from that point, you just sell the console base on its own and keep the disc drive and just slide it onto your PS5 Pro. But we're stuck in like old... it's just that's moulded on there. There's no getting that off and reusing it. It's not happening. So that's annoying. So if they had the modular design to start with, we'd have been like, okay, we don't need to buy a new one.
Yeah.
We've already invested in that, but yeah. So that's the early adopter syndrome. It always happens though, doesn't it? Everything get stung by
get the worst version for the most price.
Yeah. Same with games. Arguably day one, they're riddled with... They always get better over time. They never really get worse. So
you get it for 50% of the price with all the DLC included and like patch 7 that's fixed everything. You're like, sweet.
It's just the way of the world. But there we go. Good chat as always. Good to speak to you. Shadow of the Erdtree, Elden Ring gets itself a gold. Nothing more for us to say, I don't think, other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.